Welcome back to another episode of Days of Yore and Law. To greatly help this channel grow, please do not forget to like and subscribe, and please enjoy the video. Charles Brandon, the Duke of Suffolk, was a good friend of King Henry VIII since childhood, even going so far as to become his brother-in-law through the scandalous marriage to Henry's sister Mary Tudor, Queen of France. But you would be surprised to learn that out of his 4 marriages, although Mary was the highest courtier and the most well-known scandal in history of his wives at the time of the court, the greatest scandal was the story of his 4th wife. In this video, we will be taking a look at Charles Brandon's most controversial marriage to Catherine Willoughby. Catherine was born on the 22nd of March 1519 to the union of William Willoughby, 11th Baron Willoughby de Eresby, and his second wife, Maria de Santinas. Her father's first marriage had been childless, and the union between her parents resulted in Catherine herself and 2 brothers, Henry and Francis, who both died as infants. Catherine was the sole heir to her father and grew up in her infancy within the manor at Framlingham, Suffolk, whilst her parents spent most of their time at court, Maria being the close friend and lady-in-waiting to Catherine of Aragon, and Lord Willoughby having obligations to the king. Catherine spent most of her days with nurses and teachers. 6 months following her 7th birthday, Catherine's father passed away in October 1526. The cause of death is unknown, however it is assumed to be of age, as the Baron was in his 50s, which correlates with life expectancy of the Tudor period. With her father's death, the 7-year-old Catherine became an heiress of a vast sum. Her father had held some 30 manors in Lincolnshire and believed almost the same amount in Norfolk and Suffolk. Each manor came with the land toiled by the common folk and incurred an annual income. In addition to her father's hereditary vast collection of estates, their family were also awarded Grimsthorpe Castle as a wedding gift by King Henry VIII for the marriage of Catherine's parents. In total, this made Catherine one of the wealthiest heiresses of her generation. Additionally, with the passing of her father, even though she had a living mother, Catherine became a ward of the crown. It is from this fact that Charles Brandon enters her life. Catherine's mother Maria was known to Charles, as Maria was Catherine of Aragon's closest friend, and Charles was the equivalent to Henry. It would not be surprising to consider they interacted often at court. In 1511, Maria became the godmother of Mary Brandon, a daughter of Charles Brandon's from his 2nd marriage. So whilst it is unknown if Catherine had met Charles in her infancy, her mother had interactions with himself. Charles was married to Mary Tudor, Queen of France, at the time of Catherine's father's passing. Having married the king's younger sister in 1515, long before Catherine herself was born, it was in March 1528, around the time of the young Catherine's 9th birthday, that Charles bought her wardship from the king. Whilst this might be seen as strange, in the 16th century, that is known as the Tudor period, parents, especially parents of nobility, were seen to regularly send their children off to homes of others. This practice was often done so that the children could finish their education around their social equals and sometimes their social betters. The aim for a girl like Catherine would be to teach her how to run her own household. In the house of Mary Tudor and Charles Brandon, there were already 3 children of their own: Francis, who was 2 years older than Catherine, Eleanor, who was about the same age, and Henry, who was slightly younger, born in 1522. It can be noted through the records that the young Catherine Willoughby was not the first wardship Charles Brandon had taken on or bought from the king. before his marriage to Mary, in a period of time when Charles was without a wife, he had bought the wardship of the young Lady Lizzle, with the intention to marry her once she came of age. However, that never came to fruition with his marriage to Mary. As a result, it did not come to a surprise that Charles, once he had secured Catherine's inheritance, betrothed his new ward to his son. This betrothal was to stand until both individuals came of age and could marry. However, everything changed when, on the 25th of June 1533, Mary Tudor, the Duchess of Suffolk, died. One of Charles's rights, when he bought Catherine's wardship, was the right to marry her to a man of his own choosing. With the betrothal of Catherine and Charles' son Henry in their youth, it was assumed that he bought the right for that very purpose, but his son with Mary was a sickly boy. Additionally, with the loss of Mary, Charles also lost her income. Mary, being both a senior member of the royal family and a previous Queen of France, brought in a substantial annual income that bolstered her husband. With her death, Charles lost these additions. But before him was a solution for his financial concerns in the form of a young heiress. Now, the life expectancy of the Tudor period was significantly less than that of modern day. So, it was no surprise when events took place quickly. An era in where early remarriage and marriages between youth and age were commonplace, though some events did bring gossip, such as with the case of this. As is common practice, there is usually between a 6 and 9 months mourning period after an individual passes away. However, this can sometimes be waived. In addition, this 6-month mourning period was usually more often practiced by the wives and not the husbands, though some husbands did honour such. In September 1533, just 10 weeks after the death of his third wife, Mary Tudor, the 48-year-old Charles Brandon married the 14-year-old heiress, Catherine Willoughby. Some sources specify that the marriage took place on the 7th of September in London before the king, whilst others do not give an exact date. Though there is a high likelihood of this being accurate, for the first official engagement of the new Duchess of Suffolk took place 3 days after the 7th, on the 10th of September. This official engagement for the new Duchess was being present with Brandon on the 10th for the christening of the Princess Elizabeth, this making the marriage between Charles and Catherine only 10 weeks apart from the funeral and death of Mary Tudor. As such, this event was within the mourning period. Now, as stated before, this practice was in some cases commonplace. However, rumour and gossip still stirred through the palace and court as a result of such a short mourning period. In Queen Anne's household, there was talk as far back as 1531 that Charles was interested in his ward beyond a paternal concern. And whilst those could have been slanders from the rivalry of Anne Boleyn and Charles Brandon, and as such ignored, others plagued the Duke. Some even went so far as to stipulate that Charles's infatuation with his ward led to Mary Tudor's sickness, and that part of, if not all of, her death and illness were the result of watching her husband fawn for another. Charles's character as a flirt and a man who had a history of marriages for gain did not help such rumours. But, historically, that is all they were, rumours and gossip. Catherine remained as Charles's final wife until her husband's death on the 22nd of August 1545 at the age of 60 or 61. The couple had 2 sons of Henry and Charles. Charles Brandon's previous son with Mary Tudor, who was also named Henry Brandon and was once betrothed to his 4th wife, had passed away only 6 months after their marriage. So as a result, it was the children from Charles's 4th marriage, or more specifically his sons, who would then go on to inherit his titles. Catherine would be fortunate to outlive her husband, living herself to her 60s of 1580. But whilst her childhood and young marriage caused intrigue and gossip, so too would the rest of her life, for potentially being a lover and 7th wife of a king to the courts of all 3 of his children. To support this channel, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And I will see you all in the next one.